Hate crimes seem to be happening quite a bit in New York City. For the longest time, or I should say over the past several months, there have been a lot of videos going viral of Orthodox Jewish individuals being beaten and attacked. And they're not being attacked by the alt-right or white supremacists, they're typically being attacked by minorities. But this is the kind of hate crime you don't hear too much about. How about this one? Actress 43 is left bloody and bruised after being jumped by a gang of 10 thugs who spewed vile racist abuse at her as she left a swanky New York City bar, and she now needs plastic surgery to save her career. Apparently, they were screaming, "Get the white bees, the white mother effers, dirty white bees," etc., etc. Now, of course, you'll see this in Daily Mail and conservative outlets, but you're not going to see it on mainstream television. They're not going to tell you. You know what's really mind-blowing to me? I mean, we do have stories in the New York Times. Check this out. Man is stabbed and slashed steps away from synagogue in New York City. I don't know if you've seen these videos, man, but it's horrifying. A dude walking down the street minding his own business, happens to be Orthodox Jew, and a bunch of dudes run up, chasing after him, beating on him and stomping him, and tons of these videos keep emerging. Now, I've seen many journalists talk about it, sure, but why isn't this the narrative? Why is the narrative always about the alt-right because of, one event that happened a few years ago, which was bad and got a ton of coverage, but why isn't this considered a big problem? Why aren't people bringing this up and talking about this a lot more? I don't know. What about this? The leftist identitarians will tell you that there's no such thing as racism against white people. Well, what would you call this? Prejudice. I'm sorry, it's based on race. Well, let's read. We'll dive into a little bit about what's going on with the Orthodox Jewish community because it's a part of this story that we only ever hear a one-sided narrative, or that tends to be the case. We don't. Obviously, the New York Times is reporting it. I want to make sure that's clear. But all of these activists and these digital outlets, like BuzzFeed or whatever, they don't talk about this kind of stuff. They say an actress has shared an image of her bloodied face after she was allegedly beaten by a gang of 10 to 15 thugs, sparked by a New York bouncer who spewed racist abuse. Jennifer Agostini, 43, revealed the shocking image of what her face looked like following the attack at Skyroom Bar in Manhattan around 3 a.m. on Sunday that left her with facial scarring and multiple lacerations. During the incident, an African-American security guard allegedly called the movie and TV actress and her friends white mother effers, dirty white bees, and yelled "F those white bees and their money." Agostini had visited the venue from 11 p.m. Saturday to celebrate a friend's birthday, and the group enjoyed VIP bottle service that cost them over $900. I mean, these photos are brutal. She's got black eye swollen, covered in blood. And I'll tell you what, man. I don't know what she could have done to deserve this, her and her friends getting beaten down like that. Maybe she's a snooty 43-year-old VIP who thinks she's better than other people and said awful things, and so she got, attacked for it. Look, man, in America, you can be a mean person. It doesn't mean anyone has a right to punch you in the face. Well, let's read the story and see what happens. They say legal documents state that after they were turfed out of the special area and moved down to the non-VIP floor, they paid up and went to the lobby. But when a member of her group remembered the venue still held the card on which the $350 fee was held, they attempted to go back. That's when a 6'2" man wearing a black turtleneck, identified in legal documents as a bouncer, allegedly pushed one of the women. It was just this stampede as we were leaving. We just got rushed and assaulted by, I can't tell you how many people, Agostini told the New York Post. According to attorney papers requesting the venue release footage from the incident, swimsuit model Perendinales Garcia, that's a name, 46, was beaten about her face, body, and limbs and obtained several scalp lacerations. Her husband, Cal Stewart, says he had come to the defense of the women, but they were beaten to the ground by what he described as gang members who are the bouncer's friends. Stewart noted his toe had been amputated recently and said in a petition that he was thrown to the floor. Both he and another petitioner, Christian Saletti, were beaten about the face and body. So even the dudes who tried to break the fight up got beaten. That's crazy. Look, man, I'm not going to pretend like these people are completely innocent, but the reason I bring this story up is that things like this happen. I've seen things like this happen, and I think anybody being targeted based on their race, I think general violence, is bad. This may be the result of a bar fight, and they might be claiming, this is the case because they lost. I don't know. But the reason I wanted to talk about this and highlight it was also in line with other stories that seem to be overlooked for the most part. Obviously, it's being reported on. Obviously, the New York Post, the New York Times have talked about stories like this. But when you look to the main narrative, when you look to what emerges on social media, what goes viral, and what is shared in mainstream discourse, it's never the fact that, racist attacks, ethnic-based, hate crimes go in every direction. And the craziest thing to me is these viral videos about these Orthodox Jewish individuals being targeted and attacked just for their religion. Why isn't the narrative just like, hey man, stop the hate, period? Why is it always about white people and ragging on white people? They say, the Brooklyn, Agostini appeared smiling at WinterCon in New York on Saturday, the same day as the incident. The Brooklyn Times star, Agostini, says she must now look into having surgery to improve her appearance. I was pushed to the ground and 8 individuals jumped on top of me and brutally assaulted me. I've had 5 stitches in my head. My whole eye is closed. I am going to have numerous scars on my face. I'm a lead character on the series in March, and I have to now go see numerous plastic surgeons. And I also have to go back to the concussion center to MRI my head. Stewart said, she has a black eye and has been having a lot of headaches. My whole entire body hurts, he told the Post. They were punching and kicking me on my body. The owners of Skyroom may now have their liquor license suspended due to the incident, as the legal petition states it could be the subject of litigation. It's unclear whether the security member was staff or hired from a third-party company. Daily Mail did not receive an immediate response from the venue and the petitioners on Wednesday. Apparently, in the suit, they're demanding that the bar retain surveillance footage of what really happened. Because of that, and that's what, at least when I read in one of the stories, maybe I'm wrong about that, that's my understanding, I'm going to have to err on the side of maybe these people were a little snooty, a little entitled. I don't know. I don't think it's fair to me to make those assumptions unless we can prove it. They were just beaten up by a group of 10 to 15 individuals who they didn't know. And I think stories like this often get overlooked. If someone's screaming racial insults at you, or let's jump over to the next story, because this story is also from just the 20th, about a week ago. If these things are happening, but for some reason they're omitted from a narrative for political reasons, we got serious problems, okay? I really take issue with this idea that it's only white people who are racist or whatever. It seems to be a way to change the argument, change the narrative, so that these instances purposefully get overlooked. I don't know what you're going to get out of it. I think, in my opinion, we want to protect everybody. I don't care what the color of your skin is. I don't care if you're gay, you're straight, you're trans. You deserve civil rights, and no one has a right to attack you. Now, again, for the millionth time, I'm reading this from the New York Times. They say an Orthodox Jewish man was stabbed and slashed in a suburb near New York City on Wednesday morning, steps away from a local synagogue, and left bleeding on the ground. The local police department said the attack was under investigation and declined to say whether they believed it was a hate crime. And that's the point. What do you mean you declined to say it? Why? We've seen tons of attacks, okay? There's viral video of a guy running down the street and people chasing him. There's a video of people jumping out of a car and chasing down a Jewish guy. Why is it so hard to say they're targeting them specifically for these reasons? If the narrative, if it was inverted, they would have no problem saying, of course it's a hate crime. Of course we're investigating it. And what's crazy to me is that the Jewish community is absolutely a marginalized community, but for some reason, like, I can understand why they play these games with white people who are the majority in certain cities. I still think if somebody cites, racial hatred as part of their attack, then yeah, well, there you go. These are the laws that were created for these reasons. Not that I think it makes any sense. I think an attack is an attack, and the motivation for it is less relevant to an extent, I guess. They say that Michael B. Specht, town supervisor of the suburb Ramapo, which is in Rockland County, just north of Manhattan, said it's certainly a possibility the attack was a hate crime. The stabbing was an anomaly in the town, Mr. Specht said. So this is a suburb. This is not the same as all the other stories we've heard, so I'll make sure that's clear. They say it's hard to think about other attacks on people in the Jewish community. Police Chief Brad R. Weidel did not rule out the possibility at a news conference on Wednesday afternoon, but was not at that moment willing to say that this was a hate crime. It's possible it wasn't, Could it be a hate crime? Of course, he said, but noted that the police had a legal obligation to meet before making that determination. Rockland County has more than 320,000 residents, according to census figures from 2018. More than 31% of those residents are Jewish, according to the state, which also says that Rockland has the largest Jewish population per capita of any county in the country. Police officials gave few details about the attack, saying the information was still being gathered. So I'm going to keep this one as short as I can. And there's a reason why I wanted to highlight a couple of these stories. And it's just because I didn't expect them to get a ton of play outside of the articles that were written about them. So when news breaks, you'll have a story and it'll say X happened to Y. And what gets amplified typically follows a certain narrative. I really don't expect this story about the man at the synagogue or the actress being beaten to get a ton of amplification from journalists because it doesn't fit the narrative. So I can say that, but in the end, I wanted to highlight these stories. I wanted to talk about them because I know that this is likely where it ends. The story in the New York Times, like all the other viral videos I saw, are not going to get played. We're not going to see all these journalists, these lefty outlets say like, hey, this is a travesty and something needs to be done about it. They'll say it once or twice, it'll go away, no one cares. But if the races were inverted, it would be huge. If it turns out the guy who attacks the Jewish guy was a white supremacist or alt-right or something, it'll be the biggest story in the country. If it turns out the individual was a minority, no one will care. And that makes very little sense. We want to make sure that if anyone is being targeted, Jewish or otherwise, if they're white, because groups of people don't like you based on your race, we highlight these issues and say, you can't do this, stop, it's wrong. Every person, regardless of where they come from, what they believe, what they look like, deserves to be, to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. Next segment's coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m., and I will see you all then.